Hey, welcome to another episode of the Bent, Twisted, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. Unless you're Leslie, and she's always full of energy, no matter what time of day or night it is. Welcome, Leslie.
I wish that was true, but hi, good morning or good afternoon or whatever time you're watching this it is.
Yeah, or listening. You know, we have the audience both visual and listening. So if you're one of those people who said, "Oh, I didn't know that you did it in one way or the other," if you're listening and you want to watch and just see how good we look on camera, then you can go to YouTube and search the same name, the Bent, Twisted, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast, and you'll find that on Leslie's channel. Of course, you can see it. You can hear us on Spotify and all, like you
Facebook,
name it. It's on there.
Instagram.
No, I mean, as far as podcast platforms. So we've got all that. And then Leslie's really good about sharing that out. I'm probably, even though this is my bailiwick, probably not the best at that. But anyway, today, Leslie, we're going to talk about a topic that is very, very important. And, just to continue on this series of the challenge that a business owner may face in this first 12 months. And quite honestly, those are the most important, wouldn't you agree? Because, hey, if you don't make it through the first 12 months, what is trying to figure out how to scale your business when you're having trouble figuring out how to start your business?
Well, yeah, statistically speaking, more than half of the businesses that get started fail in the first year. And I think something like 75% fail in the first 2 years. And I could be misquoting those statistics, but it's not good no matter what it is. Too many people start and fail. And I think part of that is because they don't understand quite how much work it takes to start a business, right? It's a constant. I always use the metaphor of pushing a train up a hill. Remember when I used to use that metaphor? Pushing a train up a hill until you get to the top, and it starts to, then when it goes over that edge, although I say train, but I have in my head roller coaster, but when you push it over that edge, it goes whoosh down the other side. And you're really trying to get to that whoosh, but the work to get it up that hill in the first place is a challenge. And I believe that most people, they think, oh, I have the autonomy. I can do what I want. I can have my own schedule. I can sleep in if I want to, all of which is true. But if you don't have discipline and you don't keep putting one foot in front of the other every single day, you will probably fail, probably.
Yeah. Right? So today we're talking about inefficiencies. Like, what are you doing that's not getting, as I say, it's not making your boat go faster. And
we're talking about transportation today. Go ahead.
Yeah. So before I turn it over to Leslie, because she is an efficiency wizard, that was her background, and I'll have her explain that in a second. Yeah. I want to share with you an efficiency that I'm aware of, that if you're in this, you need to be aware of it and say, ooh, I need to get myself out of it. I'll give you an example. It's a common saying that we are the culmination of the 5 people we hang around most. And what does that mean? Well, if you hang around people that doubt you or question you or put you down instead of support you and be honest with you, but do it in a positive, supporting manner, that can change the way you attack things, or you do things. Not attack, but do things. And so I would say you can become inefficient if you're hanging around people that inject doubt in what you're doing. As an example, let's say you're a chef, or you're great at cooking, and somebody says, hey, you should open up a restaurant. So you open up a restaurant, and immediately the people around you are questioning your ability to do this. Well, then what that does, it makes you start to question every move. And what that does is it causes you to freeze. And freezing is an inefficiency. Going forward is an efficiency. So I just want to put that out there from a mindset process, is make sure you surround yourself. And I'm not telling you to get rid of friends or change your spouse or anything of that nature. I'm saying, pick those people wisely. Geez, she's tough today. Pick those people wisely who are supporting you. And every time you bring something up, be aware of how they respond. If it's always question you, you probably need to inject somebody else in there and help support you, but they're honest about it, right? But they're giving you support, like you can do it, versus, I don't think that's right for you. You probably don't stand a chance at that. Or I told you shouldn't have done that. So anyway, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leslie about the first one, which is operational efficiency. And I'm sure I triggered something in her when I said
you
that.
did. You do. You always do. You always make me think of something else, which gets me going down on a tangent. But I wanted to say
that's why I have bullet points.
Right. I know. Thank you. I don't look at them, so it doesn't matter. Oh my
I'm gonna
God.
try.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to put them on there so she'll see them. Yeah. If you're watching online, you'll see me flashing the operational inefficiencies on. Anyway, so what did I trigger?
You triggered that people that are naysayers that are quite often the people closest to you, your family, your best friend, your husband, the person you went to school with, the people that you do spend the most time with. And why are they that way? Because in their mind, they don't want you to get hurt. So they think they're doing you a favor by not being supportive and constantly finding negative reasons for things. So my piece of advice for all of you listening out there is to work underground as long as possible. Don't tell people what your plans are. And I'm not saying don't tell them you're starting a business. Fine, start a business. You can tell them that. But don't tell them what your goals are. Don't tell them what your day-to-day plan is. Excuse me. Because the minute you tell them what you're going to do, it triggers that negativity. Whereas if you wait until you've accomplished it, then you tell them and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll tell you an example of that. When I first started my executive errands, my son-in-law said to me, I had a really good consulting job. I mean, making really good money 20 years ago. And so he was like, why are you giving this up? Why would you do something as stupid as go off on your own? You've got it made, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, so here I am 20 years later with 5 people working for me and my company's successful. And and I contribute to the community and all that stuff. And I say, see, here it is 20 years later. And he says, yeah, but why aren't you rich yet? I mean, it's like, you can't, there is no way to win. Okay. So yeah, just work underground as long as you can. And if you need that feedback and that emotional support, get into a mastermind group, hire a coach, hire somebody. I think coach is a fancy business word for therapist. So hire somebody that you can talk to that has your experience so that they can actually give you that support that you need. Okay. Yeah, I said my piece. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to tag on that is as for me, as an example, I have a mentor that I've had for, probably over 15 years. And then I've hired Leslie as a business coach, and it is to make sure I'm more efficient. And also she's there to call me out, but in a supportive way, and remind me of things I can do that I may be questioning and thinking, I can't do that. And she reminds me that I can. That's the difference of having somebody on your team. So, if you look around in anything, whether it's acting, it's in business, it's in sports, they have a team behind them. Those people on that team are designed to help you succeed. They're there to help you win. Who's your winning team? So that's all I want to say about that. Let's get into this, Leslie, because this is where you absolutely shine, and it's about document processes.
Yeah. So in the first year that you start a business, typically you are wearing all the hats, right? You've got on the marketing hat and the networking and the procedure creation, and you're doing the work, you're financing and all that stuff. You're handling everything. And not all of us are good at everything. Most of us are not. Most of us are really good at one thing and not another, or we learn to be good in multiple things. And that's all great. But the trick comes in when you start to grow and you get a little business and you need to hire someone. What happens then is that you need to be able to control your processes, because you've already spoiled, and that's I'm using that in a good context, your clients and customers. And you want to continue the level of customer service that you've been providing all of this time, right? And so how do you do that? When you hire new people, how are you going to control that? Well, you control that through having written policies and procedures. It is the only way, and I'm going to say that again for emphasis, it is the only way to control your quality and your efficiency and the scalability of your business. Look, I said the words that were on the banner. Are you proud of me?
How good is that?
Oh, it's pretty good.
That's really good.
So,
see how I supported her on that?
Oh my gosh. So so you have to write policies and procedures. And some people think, oh my God, I can't write. Well, these days with ChatGPT and other AI tools like Jeff provides, there's no reason not to be able to do this. You can literally type into some kind of artificial intelligence, say, I need a procedure for doing XYZ. This is how I do it. Write me a procedure, and it'll format it. It will give you the words, and you can read through it and change it how you need to. And so there's really no excuse not to do it. However, if that too is intimidating, then you can come to somebody like me or like Jeff. I have written thousands and thousands and thousands, literally, of procedures over the decades because when I worked in aerospace as a consultant, re-engineering people's business processes, I was actually creating procedures for those companies so that their people could stay on track. Now I do it from my own company, and there's some tricks to doing it, and we can talk about that another time, unless you want me to go into the details today. But the key is making sure that they are accurate enough so that other people can operate the way you operate. Okay, that's the trick. And so, how do you verify that? Because it's kind of like, I hate to say voodoo, but that's the word that came into my mind. It's kind of like magic. How do I put down on words what I physically do so that I know and then I know that it's correct? Well, here's how you do it. People learn in different ways. Some people are tactile, meaning they need to touch things and do it for themselves. Some people are visual, meaning they can read something and understand how to do it. Other people are audio. They need to hear how to do something. So usually when I write a procedure, I cover all of these. I have flow charts, I have bullets, I have, screenshots so I can give visual and audio people the tools that they need to learn. And then how do you know that they're good? Well, you actually hand that procedure to somebody who's never done it before, done that process, and ask them to do it for you. And if they can go through using your document and end up where you need them to be and operate the way you need them to operate, then that's a solid procedure. If you find out you forgot something or you just assume that they would know something and it turns out they didn't, then that's an opportunity to enhance that procedure so that it will be fail-proof for you and so that you can make sure that people can follow your instructions. Because especially in a service-based business, you have to control how things get done. Otherwise, people they absolutely will not do them the way you do. Would you find that to be true too, Jeff?
I would, and I think that's so spot on, Leslie. One of the things I want to toss out there is, hey, how do you know when you need to create a policy or procedure for something? And I think it's when somebody comes back and asks me how to do something more than once, and it's something we do often. And that's a trigger. Like, as an example, let's say I hire a new videographer and I tell them, hey, where the content is, how we want the video created, and blah, blah, blah. In other words, I lay it out for them one time. And I just tell them that, or I give them a list of instructions within that framework. And then I hire another videographer and have to recreate that over and over again. So when that happens, it's like, okay, Jeff, that's a clue. Let's make a procedure so then we can do as what Leslie says. Hey, give that to them and see how closely they follow and the results. Check those results and say, are those what I'm expecting? If not, I'll go back and I'll tweak that policy or procedure to make sure it is. And then from that point on, I can give that as a saying, I'll give it to Melissa. She's my number one. And I'll say, Melissa, hey, here's a new video in there. And she'll already have that procedure. And she'll just turn it over to the video editor. And we know that the outcome is going to be what we want for our customer. That's usually, for me, that's a clue. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have a different approach.
Now keep in mind, we're talking about that first 12 months.
I understand. Okay. But sometimes you still have to bring in people to help. Either you've hired them to work in your shop, or you've got them helping you on your day-to-day, or it's an assistant or whatever. So where I obviously there's some generic, how do you work the cash register, and how do you answer the phone, and how do you dress for work? There's some standard stuff that you have to do. But more importantly, I think, is when somebody makes a mistake, that tells me I need to write a procedure. So I tell new hires all the time, I don't care if you make mistakes, because we're human beings and everybody does it, but please make one I don't know about so I can write a new procedure, because I like to write procedures. So, because we have so much stuff documented, there really is no excuse to make the same mistakes, right? If you're following the procedures, and we have procedures for following the procedures, mind you, then you shouldn't make mistakes for those things. But of course you will make other mistakes, and that's when we know we need to write a new one. In fact, so much so that my office manager is like, we don't need another procedure. And I'm like, yes, we do.
So I think what you said about documented processes, I think that is so important. Is
Right.
As a new business owner, when you first started, go back a couple of decades and think, okay, everything you do should be documented, right?
Right.
And
And
then
it's
turn
hard
that
to do
into
it.
a procedure. It's totally hard. I remember the first time, we do live streaming for churches and houses of worship. And so what we'll do is, like, the first time I stepped out of that role and I started documenting, I had like 104 steps. I'm like, okay, Jeff, that's going to be way too overwhelming for
Right.
this person. And so what it made me do is I had to summarize some of these things and give some images and maybe make a short video on that. As you say, it appealed to many different levels. And all of a sudden now it's like, okay, here it is. And I don't have to step back. I can step back and know that its outcome is there. So
Well,
the sooner
excuse me.
you do that,
Mm.
would you
No,
say
right.
the sooner you do that, the better off you are?
Yeah,
Don't
you
wait
need
till it
to
becomes overwhelming.
No, you need to do it as you go along. And when I used to do on-site classes for people in their businesses, I would tell them, and this is the way you need to think about it, even if you're just a solo, and I don't mean to say just, but a solopreneur, so you're just doing it yourself. Even when you're doing the work all yourself, you're still two people, right? You're you yourself, you're you as the business owner, you're you as the person doing the work. And so you have to think about, if the me that's doing the work becomes somebody else, how are they going to do this? And so what I used to teach people, and I think this is a good a mental visual that might help some of our listeners or watchers, is I told everybody's your client. Okay. The person that is feeding you information is your client, and the person that you're giving information to is your client. So in the case where you have a workflow, where, say, you're in you're in manufacturing, and there's a workflow where this person hands off to this person, hands off to this person, everybody's your customer, right? So, and some people will sit down and say, okay, I just want you to fill in these three fields all day long on this documentation and pass it along. Well, that's a monkey job. Anybody can do that, right? But if you explain to them what those fields are for and why they need to fill them out, and the importance of the accuracy of the data they put in there, and how it affects the person after them, it will make a huge difference, not only in their ability to learn and understand it, but also to make better decisions moving forward. And they can recognize when something's not correct, right? Because if you put something in front of them and they don't understand what it is, they're just punching buttons, they don't understand the ramifications of their actions. So it's very important to educate people about why and how and all that. I'll give you an example. When I used to work for a company that made satellite tracking and imaging systems, like the Google Earth type things. In fact, we built the first antenna for Google Earth. So, and I was the head of planning at the time. So all my planners would write requisitions to order material for the stuff that we were going to build. And we'd have to order and put documentation drawings with each rec that we were submitting to purchasing. And I one day walked down the purchasing hallway and noticed that one of the buyers was taking apart the package and reorganizing the orientation of the documents in the package. So I stopped and I asked him why he was doing that. And it turned out that he liked it when he went to send them out for quotations. He liked to have them in a certain package, like things grouped together. And so it was easier for him that way. So I went back and trained my planners to put the packages together, put the rubber band around it so that when he got them, he didn't have to spend any time messing with it, because we had to put it together anyway. So why not just take a minute? It's like a bank teller. They want all their bills to be facing the same way. So if you hand them money to deposit and it's all facing the same way, their life is easier. They don't have to sit there and turn all the bills around, right? So when you understand what somebody's going to do with the information that you are giving them, I think they make better decisions and they notice when something isn't correct. And that's the thought process you have to have. And it's true even if you're the only one doing the work. Because once you get busy enough to hire people, you will not have the time to create the detail that you need. So it's better to just keep track of it as you go along so that you have it ready. Even if it's rudimentary, even if it's just bullets on a page, anything is better than nothing when you're trying to document how you do business, because it will affect the efficiency of your business 100%, right?
Before we go on, I want to tie a ribbon around this because we're talking about those first 12 months, but I want you to understand what the long-term ramifications can be for your business, especially if you're a smaller business who has, let's say, Leslie, it's the Leslie Spore industry, right? And it revolves around her. Well, first of all, if you have these procedures and policies in place, your business is far more valuable because somebody can step in and run your business without you. If you
Right.
don't have those, your business is much less valuable because it's so heavily dependent on just you doing it because it's all in your head. So I just
That's
want to
bad.
point that, yeah, I just want to point that out before we go. So these are things that it's like if you build a wall and it's one brick at a time, but you don't put rebar in there, the first
Yeah.
big windstorm was going to blow it over and all
Yeah.
your work is gone.
True.
So documenting your processes is like the foundation of your business. So don't let that go. So the next one, Leslie, is automating repetitive tasks.
Oh,
Talk about that.
sure. I cannot stand repetitive tasks. It's a burr under my saddle. Okay. To me, it is 100% wasted time, because you should be able to have everything you do should have a non-recurring element to it. If I set up my financial accounting software, for example, I want to be able to set up the general ledger one time and be able to use it over and over again. I don't want to have to go in and add a new account every time I turn around, right? Or if I am charging time to somebody, as we do, I don't want to have to go in and re-input the client and enter the time manually and try to keep track of it and then monitor it and do all this stuff. So the more that you can utilize either AI or software like we offer, or some kind of non-recurring application to do any kind of a task, the better off you're going to be. Now, I'm a huge advocate for management by exception, which is also known as MBE, management by exception, which means I want to deal with, it's based on the 80-20 rule, Pareto's 80-20 rule, like it'll say 80% of your problems are in 20% of whatever, right? So I don't need to look at 100% of anything. I don't even need to look at 80% of anything. I need to look at the 20% where issues exist. And if you look at the 20% and you implement what they call a PDCA method, which is a plan, do, check, act philosophy, which means in layman's terms, something is wrong in your business, right? So say, let's do something simple like on-time delivery. Maybe you're shipping widgets out the door and there's a certain percentage of them that are always late. Well, the plan is to determine why it's late. What do the analysis, what's wrong? We want to create a plan to fix whatever that problem is. Then you're going to do, which is implement the corrective action you just decided was how was going to fix that problem. Then you check it and see if it's working. And then you take action if it's not working to further refine the process. So it's a circle of process. It's also part of the continuous process improvement initiative so many companies employ in order to keep their businesses humming along. And, again, I want to emphasize that we're not just here for the beginner, but we're talking to the first 12 months right now. And so in the first 12 months, you think, gosh, I'm just lucky to survive. What is this called? Twisted, bent, and exhausted, right? We all know how hard it is the first few years, right? We are all twisted and bent and exhausted all the time. But you have to find a way to be more efficient so that you can focus on just 20%. And that can be software applications. It can be AI. It can be outsourcing some of the tasks that you do to somebody who's more knowledgeable. I'm not a financial accountant, but I know enough accounting to not screw up my business, but some people know nothing. And so they might want to outsource that part of it. But what I would caution you on, and I'm sure that you will back this up, is that there are so many apps out there. Jeff is literally the king of apps, and he finds AI solutions for just about everything. We should play your new jingle because it's so good. He made a jingle the other day for his business, and I was so jealous when I heard it because it's so amazingly good. But he finds these apps. Well, you can become app saturated. You can have so many apps out there that just managing those is a job all by itself, which is why you want to find a way to consolidate that into a single or a couple of products that allow you to be efficient without overtaxing your brain. Things need to be automated. There should be no recurring effort involved, right? And it should be easy to understand and to implement. That's my point on that. How do you feel about that?
Well, I agree with everything you said there. Just taking it down to a West Texas mindset is we say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And
Right.
so, the 80-20 rule. And, now my side thinks, okay, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your effort and really focus there. So that's not managed by exception, but that's focusing on, where the majority of your business comes from. But MBE is so important because and I think for you, Leslie, it's important, or I think it's important to let our audience know MBE may feel like, wow, she's really negative because she only points out the stuff that's not working.
That's true.
But when you explain it up front and you don't show it in everything you do, but except when it comes back to running your business. And I think when you explain that to somebody, they don't feel like, geez, every time I'm doing something, Leslie's over my shoulder telling me about how I didn't do it right. That can become that, going back to that first part, surround yourself with the right type of people. But when you explain what that does, it'll make their life and their job easier, right? And more efficient.
I used to teach companies how to do this, to do management by exception. This is something I learned, believe it or not, like 1983-ish back then. I mean, like a long time ago.
She was in fourth grade.
Yeah, no. I wasn't that old, but I wasn't in fourth grade. And so I can tell you that to this day, every single person I've hired to be a part of my team in the last 40 years, every single one, whether I was consulting and I got assigned a group of people to lead, or in my own company where I hire people, every single person I have had to sit down and explain that management by exception is about the process and not the individual, right? Because they do all take it personally. When you're doing management by exception, you say, okay, 20% of our product did not go out on time. And so what are we going to do about it? And the first thing they'll say is, well, what about the 80% that did go out on time? Yeah, that's your job. You did a good job. And me, I don't coddle anybody. So I was like, yep, that's good. That's attaboy. That's a good thing. But we have to focus. If we're going to continue to improve, we have to focus on that 20%. And it's not because you did something wrong. It's because there's something wrong in the process. right? I'll give you another example. Have you ever gone through a drive? You eat so healthy, you probably can't relate to this, but have you ever gone through a drive-through and seen those little clocks in the window where they're counting how long the car's been sitting there? Do you know why they have those?
The more they can get through there in less time, the more efficient they are, the more money they make.
That is correct. The more cars they move through, the more money they make. And so if a car is sitting there for a long period of time, then on a management by exception philosophy, you would say, what did they order that is slowing down getting this car out of here? You know, do we need to change the way we do French fries? Do we need to change? Is our milkshake machine broken and we're having to mix by hand? You know, what is the issue in the process, the steps that we're following that slowed this car down? And you have to do that on a routine. You know, it's part of it's a metrics program, which we can talk about another time, but what you measure improves. So if you are looking at that 20% and you say, hey, what went wrong here? How do I fix it? And there could be multiple things that went wrong. So you focus on one and then you focus on the next one so that you wean that 20% down smaller and smaller and smaller till you're at 98% on time, or 98% of the cars get through in 30 seconds or less, or the amount of time it takes to process an insurance claim gets down to, you know, minutes instead of months, right? So everything's about the process. How do I focus on the process to improve it, to increase my efficiency?
You know,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say one real life example that we're all aware of right now is the change of leadership at Starbucks. And Starbucks, one of the things that they realized is when we went in there as consumers or customers, the wait time was getting too long. And it had become impersonal. And also the people who called in. So what would happen is we would do more call-ins and pickups. But what they discovered was, through what you're describing here, is the people who were picking up had very complicated orders. And they were saying, hey, this is a roadblock, or it's a cog that's not working in our flow. And so what they've done is, through those people who call in, they said, you have to have, this is the maximum you can do, because we know we can keep our efficiency up and our customer service up if we say, okay, if you order, and I don't know any of them, I'm one of those guys that go in with a hot chocolate. That's what I get. and so it's not complicated. But if you're one of those people who have, you know, I want 2 shots of this and 3 of this and X number of pumps and this, it's too complicated. And so what that's done is it's increased their efficiency to get the orders out.
The lack of efficiency. It's increased their lack of efficiency.
All right. Like what Leslie said, there she is pointing out my MBE.
Sorry.
And so what it's done, it's decreased the lack of customer service dissatisfaction.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. Yes.
And so it's all good. So these are things that are happening around us all the time. And it is one of those things that, as you say, if you don't track it, you won't know. You'll just have a gut feeling. And then when somebody challenges you in your business, you have no data to go with, right? It's just a gut feeling, like we could have done this better. Well, what does that mean? So I think that goes back to documenting your processes, collecting data, and then automating these repetitive tasks. And that's the beauty about software. We say, hey, using software, it tracks everything. It knows about that stuff. So,
but you can drown in software. You can, like, okay, so I'm going to be a little bit gratuitous or self-aggrandizing here. So when we first had Essential Elements, our software, right? We used Essential Elements. We use an outside calendar app. We use the software for our financial reporting. And then we ended up getting some kind of a project management scheduling app. And it just got to be too much to manage. So what we did is we incorporate everything except for the finances into the software application now, so that when somebody's using it, whether it's a licensee or one of my own people, they have one place to go. And it simplifies their life down, and it takes a load off too, because everything's in one place and you don't have to look here and look here and look here. And most of that stuff's not integrated. So, and everybody has their own way of doing things. And so you have to learn all this stuff and document it so other people can do it. It just gets way complicated. So we want to simplify as much as possible, utilize AI as much as possible, because that's a burgeoning industry. And I know I compliment Jeff all the time on this, but he's very modest, but I will tell you that he is the absolute on the forefront of all this AI stuff. And the things he comes up with just blows my mind. I'm like, when do you have time to work on this? I mean, he's so unassuming and quiet, and he lets me be all, crazy. But he is the one with the brains that really understands all this artificial intelligence stuff. And as new, it's moving really fast. The technology is moving really, really fast. And he seems to be staying up with every bit of it. So as something new comes out, he learns it and he implements it in his offering so that his clients can too be as efficient as possible. So whether it's AI software or database data collection system software, ERP system like we have, you want to find the best fit for your business so that you can, nothing will be perfect. Okay, nothing. I used to do best fit recommendations for companies too, and we would do demos of different kinds of software. None of them are perfect because everybody's business is a little bit different, but it's about getting as close as you can and then modifying your processes, not the software, but your processes in order to take advantage of that software, whether that's AI or something like, a database like we have. So, I strongly recommend that you look at what you're working with now. Where do you have recurring tasks? What's documented? What isn't? What can you cut down? And if you're not sure, because most of us don't, I mean, obviously, if you had the kind of 40 years of experience like us, you wouldn't be trying to learn how to do this in your first year. So, but even, I know lots of business owners that have been in business for 20 or 30 years who still don't know all this stuff. So don't sell yourself short. Just know that there are resources for you to come to and let us help you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're here to help. So.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Leslie. It was very nice of you to say that. Some of the things that have changed, just so the audience is aware, maybe they're not, is the communication between different software applications. It hasn't really improved, but what has improved is what's called an API, and that's a fancy word to say, hey, it's a bridge for communication between, let's say, this particular software. As an example, let's say you have a scheduler. Let's use like Google, or Google doesn't do this, but Calendly. Well, it has an API that connects to your customer, your CRM. Well, in the past, it's like, well, I couldn't do that, or the CRM didn't have that. So now we have that communication link. So it helps. So what happens is when you look at this, you said, hey, what kind of services or what kind of software do I need? What's my tech stack? And that used to be an intimidating word, tech stack. What did that mean? That just mean, hey, what particular software or technology do you need to stack together to help you run your business better, and then make sure they communicate with each other? Just recently, we helped a client who was on, gosh, I knew I was going to forget this, Zoho, and they were doing a lot of things manually. And I said, we can automate all of your business from the point of contact to the point of sale to the point of follow-up. And they were like, I didn't know I could do that. Well, they couldn't in that particular platform, but with the right communication and tech stack, they could, and it's made a difference in their world. So anyway, you mentioned something that I want to bring up as the next topic, which is outsource strategically. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. This is the art of delegation, one half of the art of delegation, right? So, like I said, we have to wear a lot of hats when we start a business, and it is exhausting and it is difficult, and especially if you don't feel comfortable speaking in public, for example, or you don't understand finances, or you don't want to go and hand your business card to anybody because you've never networked before and you don't know how to do that. So what's smart is to find people that are good in certain things where you really feel either intimidated or weak, And there's no crime in that because not everybody is good at everything. So find somebody that can help you that you can outsource. Now, I'll give you, I am full of stories and examples. So when I first started Executive Errands, I was trying to write a newsletter, and Jeff's been around just about as long as I've been in business. So he can tell you this is an authentic story. So I was lucky if I could get one a month out, and that would run 12 to 20 hours for me to write it and format it and find pictures to put with it and then get it set up to schedule to ship out. It was exhausting, and I would get burnt out on it pretty quickly. And so finally I said, I need help. So I found somebody who could do the formatting and the pictures and the scheduling. And I just wrote them, and I cut my time down to about anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. And then I found ChatGPT. And then, so these days I write 4 newsletters a month. They take me anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. And they're my stories, and it's in my voice, and I can enhance them with my anecdotes. So it's still me writing them, but I don't have, it's like making a cake, using a cake mix versus measuring out all the flour and the sugar and all that stuff. The basic is the basic. You don't really need to do all that by hand. So buy a cake mix and then enhance it the way you want. That's how I look at ChatGPT or any of the other AI systems out there. And I'll tell you, there's a second story that I tell quite often, and that is that I got so tired of processing bills to vendors and running invoice credit cards to get paid. It got so bad I was ready to throw my computer through the wall. It literally, I just like, if I have to do one more invoice, okay, it just seemed like a waste of time for me to be spending my time on that when I should be marketing. But so I knew I needed to hire somebody to do that part of it, the bookkeeping. And, in those days I was thinking about everything in terms of hours. How many hours do I have to sell to cover the cost of this person to do this? And it was scary. It literally was scary because I have to bring in more revenue to maintain the same profit level margins and still outsource something to somebody else, right? But eventually, when I almost threw my computer, I decided, okay, I have to do this. I don't have a choice. And you know what happened? My business grew like crazy. Why? Because I freed myself up from that, the mundane part of entering and processing invoices, to allow me to go cultivate better, more client relationships, better vendor relationships, all that sort of stuff, which automatically grew my business. The accuracy of the stuff got better. And because she was an expert in bookkeeping, it didn't take her near the time that it took me. So my worries about how much is this going to cost me didn't really matter. So when we say outsource strategically, we're saying that you should decide what you're good at, decide what you're not good at, and where you can use some help. And I understand that finances in the beginning are tough, and you might not be able to outsource as much as you want, but even if it's a couple of days a week or a couple of hours a week, anything to free you up, as long as you use that free time to now further your business goals and objectives, it's a win-win all the way around. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I just want to share the sentence of death when it comes to outsourcing. The sentence, and you probably want to write this down. And maybe you want to look at yourself in the mirror as I say this. No one can do it as fast and as easy as I can. And I do it right, and I don't want to have to do it a second time. Well, that's true if you have no procedures.
Exactly.
And so it ties into that. I'll give you my example of, I love editing video, because most of the time when I'm shooting a video, I'm editing it already in my head. And so what I would do is I would love to come back and edit and put it together, right? You see the scene in your head, and you find the B-roll, and put the music, all that kind of stuff. But here's what happened. Just like Leslie, it took many, many hours for me to do that, not including the cost of me going and shooting the content. When I first started outsourcing to my video creator, not only, and I thought it was pretty good, and I am pretty good. I've probably done over probably 7 or 8,000 videos in my time out of a total of 10,000 because I finally passed the baton.
Yeah.
Is that first time I got the video back, I'm like, I'm never doing it again. They did it so much better than I did, and
So true.
they did it faster. And so, and it goes back to this you said about your bookkeeper. They have very focused attention. They are bookkeepers. They know everything about bookkeeping. We are just on the surface. We're swimming at the top. We don't know that 1,000 foot down, there's a different world there because we're only taking care of this little piece on the top. The same thing with my video editor, even though he was a fraction, I'll say the fraction of my age, he had abilities that I didn't even know existed. And we used exactly the same software. And I'm like, how did he do that? Well, it's because he had time, because that's his only goal, is to be the best videographer or video editor, to go deep in that. So there's a huge difference. So if you're looking for quality to go up and you get your time back and your costs usually go down, you got to outsource and do it strategically.
Yeah, and don't worry so much about the cost of it. I know, we have to be sensitive to the fact that not everybody has an open checkbook that can afford to do so much in the beginning. You may be forced to do some of this yourself until you want to throw the computer. I understand. I was there several times. But with the technology moving as fast as it is, there is really no reason not to be able to streamline, combine things, work by exception, and get help from people when you can. I haven't told this story, I don't think, for a while, but when I first started traveling, which was, I want to say, I don't know, 80, 91, or not, I don't know when it was. It was a long time ago. There was, video calls barely existed. They were so bad. You had to go to all the sites because video conferencing was terrible, right? And I would carry books, and I would carry CDs, and I would carry movies, and I had laptops that really looked like desktops that had all these plugins so that I could watch. I'm in hotel rooms every single day. I want some entertainment, and you know what I mean? And then the iPad came out, and I go, oh my God, by then I had stopped working on the road, but I would have given anything to have. I wish I had thought of that at the time. And then nowadays, the technology is moving so fast, and this new AI stuff. And I know people are really nervous about it, and it will probably take over the world someday, but I'll be long dead by then. So I'm not too worried. It's so incredible. I hope that it really doesn't get used so much for malice, as I know it probably will be, because there's always bad actors out there. But the ability for people in this day and age to do things that they never thought they could do, or finding, like Jeff does, these niche experts on things that are things that we all do, but here's somebody that's all they do, right? And they're like he said, they're digging down into the software application. I use Outlook, for example, every day for my email, but it can do so much more than I even use. It's like barely scratching the surface. Or your computer in your car. How many of you have read your manual for your car?
Tesla only gives you videos to watch.
I heard nothing, right? I heard nothing. I didn't hear a sound. Anybody said, hey, I read it. I actually read mine because when I got this car with the glass screen, I didn't know what to do with it. So, but there's so many things that can be done that you don't even know. So I would say when you're planning to start your business, you get into the first 6 months or the first year of it, really and truly consider how much money you can make by offloading some of these activities, busy work, as I call it, so that you can focus on the things that further your goals. That's the most important. Everything you do every single day should be something that is helping you achieve your goals, whatever those goals are. If you're doing something and it is not directly helping you with those goals, then it is not worth doing, or at least it's not worth doing by you, right? So you want to outsource those things the most.
I'm going to leave you with a thought on this before we go to our last topic, and it's this. if you wanted to learn how to roller skate, or let's say ice skate, and I could say it's going to take you years to learn how to do this, or I could say the moment you step on the ice, you are one of the best and fastest skaters in the world. Which one would you choose? You would
Best and
choose
fast.
bestest, yeah, the bestest and fastest, right?
Mhm.
And so here's my challenge to you watching and listening. Stop asking how and instead ask who.
Right.
If you say, because here's what, and I'm guilty of this, we all are. I was the king of this, of like something new would come along and I'd say, okay, I have to learn how to use it. I have to learn all about it. And it takes so much time. But when I did this, this is one of those things you're saying, you know what? Nothing exists that there's not someone that's an expert or a lot better at it already knowing about it than I am. So as an example, if I wanted to say, hey, I wanted to start creating voice agents for AI, people answering your incoming calls, setting appointments, interacting with your customers. I said, okay, I did start understanding the overview of that and understanding the technology behind it. But I said, you know what? I don't have time to run my business and know exactly how to do it. So what I do? I hired somebody who's already an expert at it. And instead of taking me months to build it, he did it in a few days, and it just blows my mind. So there's nothing out there in my world, I say, and I think in yours, that says there's not a who that does not exist.
That's correct. And you made me think of something because you always do.
Shocker.
I know, I'm terrible.
I'm gonna change your name to Last Word.
I don't mean to get the last word. That's not the intent. It's just that I get so
I know.
excited about this stuff, and there's so many things that I want to share, and they only have an hour at a time. But one of the things that Jeff helped me with, which is another aspect of this offloading of non-core activities, is he's made a voice clone of me so that we're creating audios out of my newsletters, for example, which I wrote. But he has somebody that sounds like me. They do sound like me, right?
It is you. It is
Yeah,
you.
it
It's a
is me.
synthesized voice of you.
Yeah. So he has a synthesized voice of me reading my newsletter so that when somebody listens to the audio, it sounds like me. And so that is saving me a ton of time because I don't have time to sit down and try to read through these newsletters and be recorded and fine tune it and, edit and put on pretty fancy little intros and some pictures. I don't have time for that. That's worse than newsletters. But he's made my voice, this is another scary thing in this day and age, he's made my voice sound like me, so it reads it for me, so I don't have to do it. And that's the same as outsourcing. We're going to do the same thing with my webinars pretty soon, right? If I ever get caught up. So there are tools available that outsourcing or offloading does not necessarily mean to a physical person. Oh, adopt the right technology. That's a good banner. Yeah. It could be that you clone yourself in a non-physical clone. It's an audio clone. Although I know that you have clones where people can see what looks like you. I've seen those too.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that one yet. But the audio, I'm all in. I'm all in. So it's not expensive. I don't think not that expensive to do something like that, considering the time that saves you. And it keeps you on the forefront of technology as far as, your marketing and your advertising goes. If you're putting a video out on Facebook or YouTube video and it's your voice doing your newsletter with images and things, how cool is that? Mm. Right? I think it's amazing. And so, and it shows your potential clients that you're keeping up with technology and keeping up with the modern world, and you're not doing things the old, to me, the sentence that's the killer is, that's the way we've always done it. That's the worst. That's the worst. So,
I remember. I remember when, and we know Amy, when Amy and I first started this business, I kind of found out as I was speaking to more and more local business owners that, they've got their heads down and they're doing so much in their business, they don't realize what the path ahead looks like. And right. So I made a video describing who I was. And for some of you may not get this, but I felt like, and I still feel like this today, I'm the scout that's several miles ahead of the wagon train being local business owners.
Yeah.
And I get to scout it out and discover, wait a second, don't go down this trail. It looks really good, but it ends in a box canyon. Or you know what? There's in this case, there's the enemy down there and they're just waiting to ambush you. And then I would relay that back. I still feel like that today. So I try to stay on the forefront of, hey, what's new coming out? And is this a good way to go? Or is it a waste of your time as a business owner? So keep that in mind when you're doing this. Is like when we talk about this is tools, choose the tools that integrate well and remove or reduce that manual work.
Right.
Just yesterday, one of my staff members, he's a no code expert. I said, hey, we wanted to do this, this, and this. Now, in my heart, do I know it can be done? Absolutely. In my brain, do I know how to do it right now? No, but he does. And so before the day was over, he sent me a message. He says, okay, it's all done. That will save us so much time, and it will make Melissa, my number one, stop emailing me and say, Jeff, would you approve these articles so I can look at them? Now she doesn't have to do that anymore.
Right.
And so these are things that make sure the tools that you choose, they're not outliers that just kind of stand alone out there, and you have to step away from what you're doing to start doing that. Dashboards are great. And that's what Leslie has in her business. It's a dashboard that they go to in one thing. Think of a dashboard as all the instruments on your car. You can look and say, hey, is it overheating? Is it charged enough? You have an EV, what's the direction all those things are right there in front of you. You don't have to get from one car to another to see if you have enough fuel to get there. It's all in front of you. So make sure that dashboard exists.
Right. Agreed. I was going to say about my dashboard, but I knew you would say I'd get the last word, so I didn't do it.
No, go ahead. Geez, tell us about your dashboard, and then we'll wrap it up. We've got 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and I'll devote this to you.
Oh, you're so sweet to me. What I was going to say is that in the not as long ago as you might think, within the last couple of years, the people that work for me would have to go and look at what tasks are past due. Again, 80-20. What tasks are past due? What vendors are coming this week? Which homes do I need to go check? What quotes are past due? Who's coming into town? Who's leaving town? They had all these different places to go on my software to find out all this information so they could plan their workload for the week. And so we decided to create them a dashboard. So when they log in now, all the exceptions are right in front of them for 7 days. So they see their calendar, they see the tasks, they see the quote module, they see arrivals and departures, they see which homes they have to go inspect. They see it all right in front of them. So where it would take them 2 hours, 3 hours on the weekend to plan their week upcoming, it's all right in front of them. And they don't have to spend that time. It saved all that time, which means what? It means that they can now be more efficient with the client time so that they can focus more on the clients and give them better value. And that's part of the whole, what we were talking about, operational efficiencies, streamlining the process, management by exception. See how the stuff all folds together, just like we did on purpose. Isn't that amazing?
It's like when you go to Subway, you start out with the bread, and by the time you get done, it's wrapped up with your chips and your soda, and you're going to have a great meal.
That's right.
Leslie, as always, it is a treat to do this with you. I really appreciate it. For those of you watching, if you would, please, hit a like and subscribe. We'd love to have you back. Let us know what you thought of this. If it's valuable, pick one thing that you really liked. And then also using the management by exception, what's the thing that you felt like it was a waste of your time? Hopefully you didn't put anything down. And let us know that we could do it better. I really appreciate it. It's called the Bent, Twisted, and Exhausted Entrepreneurial Podcast. And it's for, Leslie, this is your line.
What? This is my line? Oh, it's to help you develop sanity and success. That's what we're trying to hear. It's our guideline for sanity and success. If we can help you not have to reinvent the wheel, by all means, you'll be successful much faster. And maybe you'll keep some of your brain cells intact. Who knows?
Leslie, I know you have a program that you do, and I'm not seeing it on my list, but you do something every Wednesday.
I do.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, we do a free webinar every week about marketing to real estate agents and homeowners associations or property management companies. Both of those markets are very difficult to penetrate and for specific reasons. And so we have some no-lose pitches for that and to teach you the verbiage for those industries because everybody speaks in their own language. And it's really a fun 1 hour of your life that will teach you some great marketing techniques. We have an Evite link. I'll send it to you, Jeff, so you can put it in the podcast. Okay. I think it's changed from last week. We had a problem with Evite. So let me send you a new one. And if you are interested in learning some free marketing stuff, by all means, please join up. I'd love to have you.
And if you'd like to learn more about, local business, I do a podcast every week called The Local Voice, and I have guests on. Sometimes I'm doing solo, and we're really kind of unpacking specific things for local businesses. So if you're interested in that, it's called The Local Voice. And that is typically just an audio podcast, although I have started doing some video and people are liking the video. I don't know if it's the way I do my hair, Leslie, or what it is, or the blurred background, but people are liking it over on LinkedIn. But I try to do that once a week and put that out and give some real actionable items that are beneficial just for local businesses. Hey, if you're Fortune 500, probably you're going to find this, while I'm entertaining, it may not be as beneficial for you. So
I'm a Fortune $2. Just kidding.
Well, Leslie, thank you so much again. The name of the webinar is Bent, Twisted, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Jeff Harrison, along with the lovely
Leslie Spohr.
And we'll see you next week on our program. Again, please leave your comments and your thoughts. We'd really appreciate it.
Yes, I would love your feedback.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.